What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Comically Boston podcast where we are talking the weekly nerdy news in another week in nerdom. And on Mondays I normally do my weekly nerdy news and catch us up with the news that came out over the last week. But with Thanksgiving last week there wasn't too much news going around, and if there's anything I missed, please send it my way. But some topics I want to talk about today. Zootopia 2 I went over and saw this weekend, but it's having a huge box office weekend for its opening, and it's probably going to be yet another animated movie to pass $1 billion, and probably what, the second or third movie this year to pass $1 billion, which is just impressive that they're going to do it at the speed that they're going to do it, because through just one weekend they're already racking up the cash. But also we got a little bit of Rush Hour 4 to talk about, which is an interesting topic, and I was initially excited, and then after the fact I was like, ooh. But you know, then at the end of today's show we got some Marvel news, some RDJ posting about Doctor Doom, some Wonder Man marketing, and some Eternals 2 news. So yeah, we'll get into it and chat about it, and then we'll finish out today with what you've been watching. But just to jump on into today's news, the Rush Hour 4, right? Everyone had been clamoring for Rush Hour 4 for years now, ever since Rush Hour 3. And, you know, Jackie's getting up there in age, so he's only got a little bit left in him. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it sooner rather than later, right? And Chris Tucker as well, he's getting up there in age. But last week or 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden, Trump had like messaged, green light Rush Hour 4 Paramount if you want this sale to go through, and then all of a sudden a couple days later Rush Hour 4 is confirmed to be coming back. And this initially made people excited because of course we want to see Jackie and Chris Tucker back together for Rush Hour 4. But the unfortunate news with this is that Trump's involved somehow, Paramount being shady behind the scenes, and God knows what's going on with the money side of things, you know, and how gross that is. But the director of this will be Brett Ratner, and they're kind of bringing him back, and he wasn't just like Me Too'd. He was like fully canceled a couple years ago with like 6-7 different women coming out in like, yeah, like, you know, saying some real factual, you know, this guy was terrible. And yeah, so Paramount with Trump is bringing back Brett Ratner to do Rush Hour 4. I don't know if it's the best way to get it, you know, and it's mixed feelings, but I mean, I still kind of want to see Jackie and Chris Tucker, so that's what I'm going to focus on the most. But ugh, I don't like that Brett Ratner's back, and I don't like that Trump was involved. But Rush Hour 4, come and pull your thoughts on it. I'd love to know. It just rubbed me the wrong way the other day. I was like, oh, I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing. I'm going to have to see what the people think. But getting away from that and getting into the biggest topic of the weekend, and that is Zootopia 2. And I went over, me and my roommate went with my buddy Langone and his wife and his daughter, and, you know, so like my little niece, and she had a great time, and she was really locked in. So that alone, I was like, you know, if you can make a 3-4-year-old girl lock the fuck in and like enjoy the movie, that's a good movie, you know. And like there was other kids in the theater being naughty little kids, talking, screaming the whole time, being obnoxious. Not his little girl. I'll give her a lot of credit. She's fucking pretty damn good child, you know, especially out in public and shit, you know. And she's a little shy out in public, you know, so maybe that's why she's not loud and shit. But the parents out there that are bringing their kids to the theaters and just letting them be obnoxious through a movie, not me. That kid would have a swift backhand or a leather belt when he got home, you know what I mean? And that might not be good parenting, but hey, I'm not a parent, and that's how I was raised. So, you know, hurt people, trauma, I don't know. It is what it is. But don't bring your kids to theaters if they don't know how to act. That's all I'm saying. You know, don't go to the theater yourself if you don't know how to act. If you're going to be on the phone texting or taking a call in the middle of the theater, that is like justifiably you should be hung in the theater for all to see. You know, like if you take a phone call in the theater, you should die on the spot. That's how I believe. You know, that's never happened to me, but I've heard some horrific things with theaters where people are just obnoxious going to the theaters. Like, fucking mind your P's and Q's and stop being assholes out there. It's crazy. But Zootopia 2, getting back to that, was a highly entertaining movie, and I actually, I don't know, part of me really liked Zootopia 2 and liked where they were going, and I saw what they were doing, you know what I mean? Like where I heard, like, as they were doing the interviews for this, I heard the behind the scenes, like, there was no call up the actors that they want to get involved in this and be like, hey, we have this project, there's a snake, and we want Ki-Hye Kwan to come play him, and, you know, like, there was no, for Ki-Hye Kwan, there was no, like, hey, what's the role, what's the part, blah, 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 like, there was no, like, information. Disney was kind of just like, hey, you want to come down to the animation studios and jump in a booth for us? And they're like, for what? No, just like, do you want to or you don't? And then, like, if they said no, then they weren't in the film. And if they said yes, they were in the film. You know, like, I'm pretty sure The Rock's in this Zootopia 2 for a quick second, just kind of, flying away. And, like, they didn't need to get The Rock to do that, but he was probably in the booth already doing stuff for Moana, so they were like, hey, you want to do something real quick for Zootopia 2? And he's like, yeah, I got 5 minutes, come on, I'll do something. They had 2 WWE guys, friggin' Roman Reigns and CM Punk in here as the Zebros, you know, like, and every single time they said Zebros, me and my buddy Langone died laughing because we're fans of the WWE, so we know that they got 2 WWE big jacked muscly guys, 2 manly men to come do Zebra. Shit cracked me up. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But Zootopia has had a massive worldwide opening box office weekend, and it opened with $556 million worldwide, making it the 4th biggest global opening of all time, and it's only behind ENDGAME, which made $1.2 billion opening weekend, which is actually insane that it made $1 billion its opening weekend. But Infinity War made $640.5 mil, and No Way Home made $600.5 mil, and Zootopia made $556, and it is almost certainly going to go and make $1 billion, which I think this year maybe the $1 billion movies have only really been, what, Lilo and Stitch, that other animated film like Niza 2 or something like that, and I'm pretty sure it made like 700 million in China alone. So like, I don't know if that counts as a global $1 billion movie, you know, like I feel like most of the money is normally from the US, I could be wrong, but you know, the China market is pretty huge, so if China's gonna watch your movie 700 million, make you $1 billion, you know, no wonder why that movie did so well. But like, I haven't heard any single soul over here watch it, so I don't know. But Zootopia, I've heard a bunch of people watch and said they liked the first one, they liked the second one, you know, so I'm sure that movie's going to make $1 billion pretty freaking easily. But I don't know, part of me likes Zootopia 1 more than Zootopia 2, but I'll be talking about that later this week in a movie review for those 2 movies, so stay tuned for that. But I loved, like, in Zootopia 2, there was little parts like this, where all of a sudden, like, the fox and the wolf run by through a kitchen, and we see a lion is a chef, and he's got, you know, like a mouse, you know, ratatouilleing his hair as a chef. The chef's like, I knew it! You know, but because this is Disney, they're able to throw in references like that. Like, there was tons of references to Ratatouille, there was other stuff, there's like Hoppers is their next movie, there was like little references to that. There was like this guy selling movies, and they're on the things, it was like The Mandalorian, Indiana Jones, Frozen 2, you know, so there was like a bunch of them, and like they're just able to throw in these little Easter eggs because why not? They're Disney, they own it all. So like, I liked little parts like this, and it was confirmed that that lion chef was confirmed to be named Alfredo Linguini. Oh god, and this whole movie was written by Jared Bush, and yeah, it was very well done. I actually quite liked Zootopia 2. But Alfredo Linguini and Zootopia and Mr. DeSnake and Hops and Fox, I don't know. It's funny because I just this weekend watched Zootopia 2, but I also watched The Bad Guys and The Bad Guys 2. And it's like, it almost is like Universal's answer, or DreamWorks, whatever, you know, like the answer to Disney's Zootopia was to do this animal, The Bad Guys. And I think I actually like the crew of The Bad Guys better. And, you know, the first film, they're fighting like a guinea pig named Marmalade, and I wasn't really here for that. You know, I didn't necessarily like The Bad Guys 1 a lot. But Zootopia 1, I was really, really here for the fox and the bunny, you know. And I think I said in my Letterboxd movie review for the Zootopia 1, I really want to see this like fox and bunny. Like, I've never shipped a fox and a bunny so hard in my life. Like, I really want to see them kiss. You know, like it'd be happily ever after or whatever. But Disney makes it more like they're partners, like they're two cops and they're partners platonically rather than, you know, sexually. And The Bad Guys 2 is a little bit more raunchy, a little bit more crude humor for the adults in the crowd. But then they also didn't lean away from, like, the animals having relationships, you know what I mean? Like in Shrek growing up, we saw Donkey and a dragon have babies, you know? So why can't we have little cross-species animals that aren't supposed to happen? Why not? Who cares? You know, like, it's an animated fictional movie. It's not that big a deal. You know, but Bad Guys 2 did not lean away from the fact that they had the fox and the wolf kiss. And I was like really here for it. I like jumped up, woo! I was like, good for them, you know. And then I made me think of Zootopia 2, and I was like, they should have kissed. They should have kissed. But both movies are left open for a third, you know, trilogy film. So I'm going to be very much so here for that. Comment below your thoughts on the Bad Guys movies or the Zootopia movies. But heading into our final topics, the Marvel topics, to end out today's show. And like I said, not too crazy a week because of Thanksgiving last week. A lot of people were off shopping, doing their thing, not really releasing news, not really a whole lot of trailers out. I'm not really watching It, Welcome to Derry, so like there's not really a whole lot of new shows out. But I think coming up in a few weeks we should have Fallout Season 2, so that should be interesting. Comment below if you're going to be interested in that. But going back to some Marvel news and Thanksgiving, Robert Downey Jr. did this little cryptic post like he likes to do. And it's interesting because now this, of course, brought my mind the Iron Man and Dr. Doom it all, and he had this little picture where they both have their pinkies on a wishbone. And if you guys have never done this, where like you hold a side of the wishbone, you break it in half, and then I think the bigger side of the break wins. I don't know what happens after you break it, but it looks like, you know, Iron Man and Dr. Doom are breaking the wishbone here, and it's still intact in the picture, but it's like this old school comic book accurate Dr. Doom outfit and like the old school comic book accurate Iron Man outfit. So now this made me think a little bit. We know we're gonna see RDJ as Dr. Doom in Avengers Doomsday, but will we also see an RDJ in a classic Iron Man suit? Like, not necessarily like the Iron Man Mark III classic, like going back to Iron Man 1. I'm talking about going back to like the 60s and this like classic Iron Man suit. Like, I think that might be something I want to see more than I want to see Dr. Doom. You know what I mean? Like, you know, as much as I want RDJ back as Iron Man, if we get this like super drunk, super playboy, super like douchey Tony Stark from the 60s in like this other 60s universe, and it's still RDJ, oh my god. Oh my god, would that be awesome. And like, you know, have RDJ fighting RDJ. I mean, that's probably more possible than we would think. But I'm sure he's just going to be Dr. Doom. But here he is again, dropping some cryptic post. And even on this post, if you can see a little bit on the right side, it looks like the right side of this is like a coaster maybe, and it's got like water damage. So like, just interesting that they would throw that in there as well. Like, ooh, look, there's a little damage on this picture. Like, what? RDJ Marvel, what the fuck are you guys up to? Like, we still, like, it's crazy we still don't even know really anything about what Avengers Doomsday is about, you know? Like, it's crazy. And another show we don't know a whole lot about is Wonder Man, you know? And like, does Simon Williams have powers? You know, is Yaya going to be, you know, a full hero? Is he a villain? You know, like, I don't certainly know a whole lot about Wonder Man, but they had this weird little marketing going around, and they had this like acting coach to the stars, Trevor Slattery, as like a bench ad, and there's like a phone number to call him or text. And some people were actually doing it, and I think if you call it, you get a voicemail, and if you get a text, you get like acting coach advice back from Trevor Slattery, which is just kind of funny that they did this. And it says, acting isn't a job, it's a calling. I mean, it's it feels like it's going to be funny, and I feel like we were supposed to get this show in December, but it got pushed because of Stranger Things until early January of 2026. So, you know, it'll be the start of the year for us for Wonder Man. But, you know, this weird bench ad, like, what are they up to over there with Wonder Man and Marvel? And will Wonder Man tie into Doomsday? Probably not, but, like, what are they tying into? You know, like, Marvel used to have something, you know, make something, and then it tied into something else in the future. Now, with the multiverse saga going all the way back to Shang-Chi, you know, of course he's going to be in Avengers Doomsday, but because we haven't seen Avengers Doomsday yet, all of that, like, projects that have come out in Phase 5 for, like, the multiverse saga, we don't know how any of it connects to anything else, really. You know, like, we have no, like, alright, how's this gonna end up, you know? Like, I don't know, man. I want to know what happened to my boy Moon Knight. I want to see Werewolf by Night again. I want to see Elsa Bloodstone. I want to see Man-Thing. You know, like, there's so many people I want to see. Shang-Chi, the Eternals, which we'll get into next, you know, like, I don't know, comment below your thoughts on Avengers Doomsday, Wonder Man, but also, you know, to end out today's Marvel topic, with Hamnet from director Chloe Zhao in the rounds right now, doing press, and I'm pretty sure that movie's going to be coming out soon. And a lot of talk around Hamnet is that it is going to be getting a lot of awards buzz this award season, and I believe it has Paul Mescal starring in it, and I believe the Hamnet movie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like the movie about William Shakespeare, but like the man instead of like his plays. So, I don't know, it might be interesting, but it also might be like a drag. I don't know. But Chloe Zhao is a great filmmaker, so like I actually genuinely like her work. So I'm gonna go check it out, and I'm sure it will be good. But because she's been getting interviewed for that Hamnet movie, somebody asked her about Eternals 2, and she said, I would love to bring them back and have more discussion about the world we live in. I'm really proud of it, of Eternals. And she would be down to do Eternals 2 and explore more of that mythology, and I genuinely like what she did in the sense of scale with the Celestials, like. And then an idea also popped in my head. I believe New Rockstars and Eric Voss made a video about it. And they were talking about the potential return for Eternals 2. But one thing that he threw out there in that video that really stuck in my mind was, you know, the last time we seen Arishem, he took a couple Eternals to go cast his judgment. And the last time we seen Galactus, he got pushed through a portal and he was disappeared, you know, but like he didn't die, he just, you know, is somewhere else and we don't know. But, you know, if the galaxy for these big giant individuals like Celestials or Galactus, what if in Secret Wars we saw Arishem the Judge, a ginormous Celestial, going up against Galactus, you know, and like having just this big ass kaiju fight in the stars between the Celestials and Galactus, you know, like, or even if they don't fight, you're telling me that big giant space god Galactus eating planets doesn't know who or what the Celestials are? I don't know, man. I think that is fascinating, and that could be Eternals 2, you know, like the Arishem the Judge revenge or you know, whatever, and it ends up being the Celestials versus Galactus, and maybe the Eternals have to help the Celestials because, or they have to like pick a side, and maybe they join Galactus against the Celestials, who knows? Or maybe it's like the Celestials are fighting and the Eternals have to go grab the Avengers and everybody because whoever wins that fight is going to turn and destroy Earth. So then, you know, they have to either pick a side or they have to try and defeat both of them. I don't know. But like, this is just, I haven't really put any thought into this. This is just popping out of my brain at the moment. You know, like some people can freestyle rap. This is what I can do. I can brainstorm so much so on the moment that, you know, maybe it's hard to grasp what I'm trying to talk about, but ideas are flowing into this brain and it is just popping off up here. I promise you. You know, I'm trying to articulate it the best I can, but man, there's certain things that excite me when I get like new ideas like that, and I can see the imagery in my head of just like a giant Arishem the judge swinging this punch and a giant, you know, Galactus punching him back. You know, Arishem grabs his antlers, knees him in the face. Arishem, you know, is like throwing punches. Galactus throws an uppercut, you know, and like Arishem's armor starts like peeling away. Because we saw in Eternals, like, he had this giant armor, but it was also kind of, like, battle damaged, which was fascinating to me in Eternals. Like, how can something this big and cosmic have battle damaged? What damaged it, and what was it fighting, you know? And, like, oh, the Celestials were so interesting, in the sense of scale in that film was absurd. And, like, the way he sounded, the way they looked, like, love or hate Eternals, I genuinely was here for the visuals of that, and the cast was pretty damn good, you know, and she had a hell of a task to introduce 10 new starring characters of the Eternals, plus side characters, plus villains, you know what I mean? Like, she had a lot to introduce, and I think she did a tremendous job, and some people just didn't get it, so they're like, oh, how's this gonna connect? And luckily, you know, Eternals does connect pretty directly to Captain America Brave New World with, you know, Tiamat and the hand of the corpse Tiamat being in that movie as a pretty big set location. And, like, they fly around it. They don't necessarily ever set foot on it. And they talk about what materials are being made from that celestial corpse. So I have a feeling that the Eternals could maybe loop in here to Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars pretty heavily. And if they don't, possibly maybe they were a part of the Kang Dynasty story a little bit more. And maybe that got scrapped with the Kang story. But hey, who knows? Maybe Kang could come back. You know, Jonathan Majors trying to bring back his acting career. I mean, with various levels of success, but, you know, Josh Brolin was once in trouble and he was Thanos later, you know, so, and people love Josh Brolin now. But if you look up Josh Brolin, like, he had kind of the same issue with a girl that Jonathan Majors did, you know, so shit happens. In my personal opinion, regardless of what you do outside of work, that's your personal life, you know, like, as bad as it is, I don't feel we should know about it, you know, like, if it's not supposed to be public, you know, and just the way the world is, everything's public these days, so you gotta be careful out there, but, like, if you're gonna be a bad dude to a girl, it could cost you everything, and it sucks because, you know, like, I watched the video. Jonathan Majors was running away from that girl for blocks. Like 3-4 blocks he ran away from this girl, and she's chasing after him in heels. And the only reason, like, she actually caught up to him was because Jonathan Majors was recognized on the street by a group of women, and they were like, can we get a picture? And he stopped and took a picture, and then she caught up to him. And then he got in trouble for assaulting her because he put her back into the car so that she could get driven home, and he was like, I'm not going with you, I'll walk. And he was in a full suit running down the street away from her. He tried to get away as much as possible and still ended up, he called the police on her, and then he ended up arrested. And that's just, I don't know. I think it's unfair. I don't think he should ever put his hands on a woman like that, you know what I mean? Like, you should never beat a woman or hurt her or do anything like that. But when she's swinging on him, you know, how does he go to jail? Like, he called the cops. That's, it's just a fucked up situation. And I don't think the poor man should have lost Kang and He Who Remains and Victor Timely. Like, the work he was doing was fucking tremendous. You can't tell me it wasn't. And then all of a sudden now, he's canceled. He no longer has a team, you know, behind him. He no longer has Marvel behind him. And now he's just, like, trying to come back, and hopefully one day everything blows over and Kang can return. But I don't know. And then they tried to say that, like, Kang wasn't as big as Thanos, and they weren't quite happy with Kang even with, you know, Quantumania. So they were, like, pivoting there and going back to Doctor Doom. But I don't think that was the case at all. You know, because why would you have Avengers the Kang Dynasty and then all of a sudden, oh, no, we're switching that to Doomsday. Da-da-da, RDJ's back, you know, like, I think they panicked real hard, and then they were like, we need to make sure we have a good movie. So they called up the Russo brothers, and they called up RDJ, and then that's now what's happening. But I don't know. The Marvel world right now is, like, we don't really know what's coming, and it's not like set in stone, certain that it's going to be good, you know. So it's like I'm excited for what's coming, but I'm also incredibly nervous on the Marvel side. Where like the DC side of things, yes, I'm also like there's a sense of nervousness, but I'm excited to see what comes, and it's like fresh and new, and like it's building where where Marvel's like built and it's way up here, and they're trying to add layers, and it's like, that's a scary Jenga tower, if you know what I mean. Like when you get up that high in Jenga, you know, it's a lot easier to put a wrong piece and the whole thing comes toppling over. So that's kind of where Marvel's at right now for me, where like I'm fascinated, I'm excited, but I'm also incredibly nervous that they're gonna fuck it up. You know, like where James Gunn over there with DC, I think I have a little bit less nerves and a little bit more faith in what's going on over there, especially after Peacemaker and you know, Superman, and like that's only like 2 projects. We still have, you know, the Batman Part 2, which isn't necessarily going to be a part of it, but still coming out from DC. There's going to be some animated projects, probably Creature Commando Season 2. There's going to be Supergirl coming out, Lanterns next year. So I'm real excited for Marvel and DC right now. Both have some great things coming. And then, you know, like Zootopia, Rush Hour 4, you know, some more things will be talked about in the future, and I can't wait for some more things to come out and be announced and know what the future holds for us. But as far as 2026 coming up, there's some sick movies coming our way. So there'll probably be, you know, we're now in December, so there will probably be a collection tour video to end out the year. There will be like a 2025, my favorite movie of the year. There will be like my Oscar, who will be my Oscar winning movie of the year. Yeah, and then there will be like, you know, what's the best Marvel DC project of the year video, and then you know, maybe a most anticipated movie of 2026, probably coming out early January. But yeah, got a lot to do and a lot more coming in the future. So thank you guys. If you made it this far in the video, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you don't miss future videos and you get the notifications when those come out. And if you want to follow my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. Once again, my name's Big Cam, 2 G's in the Big. Pretty much any way I look for this face and you can find me. And if you truly have made it this far in the video and you would like to support, the best way to do that is liking, subscribing, commenting below, doing all the things, following the other social medias. And I really, really appreciate you guys making it this far into the video. That is the best way to help the videos and help the channel grow, is clicking on a video, watching it beginning to end, and not clicking out of it. That's the best possible way to help get that watch time up. I'm closing in on monetizing this channel, so I'm very excited about that. But we will talk more next week, and if you guys have anything you'd like to chat with me about, drop those down below and let's chat. But I will see you beautiful folks in the next video. Peace.